Oh my God. So over the last 4 weeks, I've tried to do this video at least 4 times. Like, I've filmed completely the whole video to realize that my camera had ran out of memory long before. And then you'd think, Julio, but that's an easy problem to solve. You just have to format the memory card, you put in the camera, empty, and then you film again. Yeah, it should be that easy. But it doesn't seem to be that easy because either the camera overheats, or it just stops filming for no reason, or then there is tons of noise, or you didn't press the record button before you started. So there are a myriad of reasons why this has taken so long. I have gone insane trying to film this. Having said that, there's always room for learning, and no failure is truly failure if you learn from it. But in all seriousness, let's do this. Hello everyone. Hello everyone, and if you don't remember me, I'm Julio from Source, and today we're here to finally do homemade fermented CBD beverages. From the start, I apologize for the change of outfit throughout this whole equation, the change of exposure. I really don't understand. Was I filming with sunglasses? How did I not see that part of the video was gonna be so overexposed? It's okay, I apologize. Hey, I have a big window here and I have a room full of windows in the back. So everything gets too bright sometimes. The sunlight changes from the moment that I start filming. You don't care about this. Clearly, this has been an emotional roller coaster. So I just want to apologize in advance for all the changes that you see throughout the whole filming period or throughout the video. It was a journey for me, so might as well make it a journey for you. So let's get into it. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to have fermented beverages. From feeding your gut flora to better digestion, helps with a whole bunch of health ailments that come from not digesting properly. So, and then they're also delicious. And then sometimes you might want to have an alcoholic beverage. Wouldn't it be nice if I just had, 3 ingredients, 2 ingredients in my beer and knew exactly what's in it? So, for that reason, you might want to ferment your own. And then also, what better excuse to ferment than to want to have a fermentation station in your home? It's so much fun when people come and then they go, what's all that crap that you have on your counter? And then you go, oh, it's my fermentation station. So at the end of the day, there's a ton of reasons why to do it. So let's just get into it. Let's not make this video longer than it needs to be because my camera might just stop filming. This time, we're gonna start with the Tepache because I think it's the funnest one. The Tapacha is gonna be the one that we're gonna ferment so that it becomes alcoholic. For this, you're gonna need 2 ripe pineapples. These were so ripe actually that I had to put them in the fridge because I wasn't sure that they were gonna still be good. Like I said, this video has taken me so long to do. Oh my God, please stop it. So we're gonna start by chopping these pineapples. I suggest you buy organic pineapples because the rind is gonna go into this whole equation. So if they're fertilized or have insecticides, you definitely don't want to be eating that. And rinsing it and washing it might take away some of the natural yeast that the rind has. You're gonna want to start with a freshly washed container. It's important to remember that when we're fermenting, we're creating the perfect environment for bacteria to grow. So you definitely want your bacteria to grow in this, not accidental bacteria to sneak in there. I tend to get the core out because it can be a little bit bitter. Just maybe 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch. As I mentioned, washing the container, the same thing goes for the bottles. When you start bottling, you need to make sure that your bottles are clean, or else, not that it's a sure recipe for chaos, but you're just inviting chaos to happen, so might as well be careful. So with this Tepache, I'd like to throw out the little caveat that I'm gonna give you some amounts, but these are just gonna be recommendations, more like descriptions of what I already do, but there's a lot of guesstimating in terms of amounts here. It's there's a lot of room to play, so don't feel like what I'm telling you is specifically a recipe. I'm just showing you the process. So here's a cool thing about what we're about to make. There are bacteria on the pineapple rinds, absolutely, the skin or whatever you want to call it. Some of them we don't want, but let's remember that this is the way that our ancestors used to keep their beverages from spoiling, their food from spoiling, before there was any refrigeration. So the way that it works is yeast will produce alcohol, you know, as an exchange in this equation, and as a result, that alcohol will kill malicious bacteria. So a lot of the bacteria that you can grow here out of the pineapple will take care of itself, basically. Up next, we're gonna throw in some cinnamon in here. Now, I did get some cinnamon sticks for one of the previous versions of this video, but of course I used it all, and now I'm stuck with ground cinnamon that I already had. But this is organic, so I can't complain. So now, now we're gonna, whew, that really shook my noggin. Now we're gonna throw in, you know, a healthy amount of cinnamon, something to give it a little kick. Tons of stuff that you can throw in here. You can throw in a couple of cloves, you can throw in some garlic, some ginger. Let's throw in some ginger actually. Now sugar. Now traditionally in Mexico, because this is a traditional Mexican beverage, they use something called piloncillo, which is basically like a cone of sugar that's made straight from sugar cane. In this case, I am gonna try white table sugar, only because after thinking it a bit, I want you to understand that this is something that you don't need very specialized ingredients for. You can really just get, you know, whatever you can get at your grocery store. So we'll just use white sugar for the sake of the experiment to prove a point. Obviously, if you have access to an ethnic market or just brown sugar, organic brown sugar, that would obviously improve drastically the flavor of the beverage. But for the time being, we'll go for the easy to get ingredient. So I'm throwing in 3 cups of white sugar. Also, it's important to remember, like I explained, that sugar is going to be the food for the yeast and the bacteria to create CO2. So the more, and alcohol. So the more sugar you put in, the more alcohol you'll get out of this beverage. Now we're gonna throw in 4 liters of water here, which is 16 cups. I don't have a measuring cup that big. I apologize for my ghetto-ness. So I'll have to use my blender. We're gonna want this water to be room temperature to cold, mainly because hot water will just kill bacteria that you have in there, so we definitely don't want that. We're gonna want as much sugar as can be diluted in there to, you know, be diluted. All right. Now for the funnest part of them all. We get to make a super ghetto airlock. Obviously, if we were doing this properly, we would use an airlock that looks more or less like this, but we don't have that. We don't have this container with an airlock. This here container that I have in my hand. So because of that, we're gonna have to make our own airlock, and I assume that you don't have one too. So either. So we're gonna make one, and for that, we're gonna use a couple pieces of plastic that you're gonna cut in a circle that's gonna be bigger than the perimeter of your container, and we're gonna put it here. So basically, what we want to buy an airlock is something that contains as much CO2 as possible in here, but also won't contain so much that it will pressurize it, because this here bottle or jar is not pressure friendly, so it will explode. So for that, we need the CO2 to, you know, be released in small bits whenever the pressure builds up too much. So what we're gonna do, I've done this several times, so you can see I'm somewhat of an expert. So we're gonna put it against our belly, and then we're gonna grab a couple of really sturdy rubber bands. I'm gonna hold it with the rest of my body. And we're gonna pull the plastic out very gently from underneath. There you go. So now we have our Tepache. So now the next step is to move this to the fermentation station for about a week. Now, funny story, obviously the longer you leave it, the more alcohol it will produce because it will have more time. So I made it the first time, and because it was coordinating, I thought, maybe this can use a little bit more sugar, forgetting that sugar is an IPA. It tasted a little bit like beer, but you know, pineapple-y. So it fermented for 3 weeks, which is 2 more weeks than I'm suggesting. So I suggest you only ferment it for 1 week. It'll be more than enough. The one that I made had to be at least 7% alcohol. So now this goes to the fermentation station, like I said, for a week. I'm actually gonna leave it here for 2 weeks, just for fun. I just wanted to give you a fermentation station update. I wanted to show you how active the fermentation is in the Tepache. This guy is loving life. All right, it's time traveling Julio from a week ago, doing what had been 2 weeks ahead of time from the moment that I started this video. So brownie points if you managed to track that. So we are now at the next stage of the process. So the Tapacha has been on the fermentation station for 2 weeks now. You probably only need to keep it in there for 1 week. So for bottling, you can use these really nifty bottles. These bottles used to contain beer. Now, just so you know, there's a lot of these bottles out there at like dollar stores and bodegas and grocery stores. And the majority of these bottles that you will find for cheaper are ornamental only. And they will usually say ornamental or decorative. What that means is that they're not designed to be pressurized. So when we put these in the bottles and we close them for the secondary fermentation, as CO2 starts building up, pressure will build up. And if it's not pressure friendly bottle, then it will literally explode in shards. How do you get the right bottles? You can go on Amazon and Uline and get the right bottles. Or, which is a little bit funner, you can go to a liquor store or a beer store and buy beer that has these kind of bottles. So basically the rule of thumb is if it has something carbonated in it, you can use it. It's probably safe to use. Now, I also found these BPA-free plastic bottles. They had flavored sparkling water in them. I double checked that they were BPA-free because you don't want anything leaching into it. And you can use these as well. These, I mean, the safer element of these is that even if they exploded, they're not gonna, you know, create potentially permanent damage to your face. But I could tell that these were struggling a little bit more than these because at some point they started getting like little stretch marks around the neck, and that means that the bottle was probably like holding for dear life. But so there you go. So you can use these glass bottles, but in my case, I'm gonna be using this nifty little guy. So this is a Growler Works mini keg. They make these growler sized kegs. The brand is Growler Works, and they're on Amazon, they're on Wayfair. My cousin works there and he gifted me one of these, and they're awesome, honestly. So, you know, if you like craft beer, you go to the beer store, you go to the brewery, and then you get it filled up, and then they come with these little CO2 cartridges that keep the beer carbonated in it, and you know, it creates pressure and whatever. So this obviously is very, very much made to be pressurized. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pour as much as I can in here, and then I'm gonna let it ferment another week or about 4 more days, just to let the carbonation build up. Basically, the way that it works is the bacteria is releasing CO2, and because of the little airlock that I created, which is pretty ghetto, it will not contain the CO2 to the point that, you know, the CO2 can escape easily. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in this vessel, and then we're not gonna let the CO2 leave. The CO2 is gonna continue to accumulate, and eventually the molecules of CO2 will start dissolving into the liquid. And that's when a beverage becomes carbonated. So this guy's got a little pressure gauge here, which is gonna be really cool. It's really cool to see your beverage increasingly, you know, gain pressure, and then eventually, once it gets to the top of it, you know that carbonation is going to start happening. So first, what we're going to do, I highly recommend these. This is not the first time that I make fermented beverages. I make them fairly regularly, and I strongly suggest you get one of these, mainly because it's a larger volume. But other than that, you can use these guys, and these are a lot more convenient. This is the moment when you bet money on the fact that I am gonna screw this up royally. See, I would do this over the sink normally, but I'm entertaining you fine people, so. All right, maximum effort. Smells very cinnamony. All right, and we're gonna make sure that there's enough air at the top of the bottle, because usually with these fermented beverages, once you open them, they'll foam up a lot. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen. All right, that surprisingly wasn't a complete disaster. I was accounting for it. So these go to the fermentation station. And what we're gonna do, actually, I'll show you. So beer stays at a consistent pressure, especially after they're refrigerated. So this doesn't, because we're keeping it at room temperature. Some days it gets really warm, some days it's a little bit cooler. So the amount of pressure in these is not gonna be stable. So sometimes the pressure is gonna be too much, and it can actually explode. So what we're gonna do is called burping. So every 3 or 4 days, the longer that you let it ferment, the more often you need to burp it. You're gonna come, and then you're gonna let some of the pressure out, and then you're gonna close it back up. And then that's it. All right, and with that, we finished the first part of what turned out to be a 2-part video. I would have done it all in one, except that I have 3 hours of footage. So I'm not gonna force you to go through 40 minutes of this annoying thing that I do every week, and I'm gonna allow you to have a little breather. So next week, I'm gonna be coming back and doing the rest of the ginger beer and the steps from, the beginning to the end. And by that point, we will have some delicious Tepache ready to go and ready to be tasted. In the meantime, please stay safe, have fun, and enjoy fermented beverages. It really is one of the most rewarding things that you can make in your own kitchen. So enjoy, stay safe, and until then, goodbye. Oh, and please make sure that you leave in the comments how your experience goes. I really want to know. It really is interesting to me to see if you make as big a mess as I do in your kitchen. And please leave a like for this video. Share this video with your friends, which I'm very sure that they will appreciate it. Subscribe. Did you know that every time that you subscribe to this channel, an invisible squirrel is spared death? I've already made that joke, but at the end of the day, I'm not that original. Take care, and I'll see you next week.